Don Mazzella here again for Small Business Digest. The food industry is rife with people, entrepreneurs, and I try to feature them on these shows because they all bring uh, something unique. And when Jaime Fernandez came along, we had to have him on the program. Jaime, welcome to the program.
Hey, Don, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate
Well, you have a company that I'm interested in for a lot of different reasons. But first, tell us a little bit about your own background
it.
and then about your company.
Absolutely. So, I'm originally from Northern California. I grew up in the Sacramento Valley, in a little rural town, farming town called Arbuckle, California, which is in Colusa County. My mother and father are actually both immigrants. They came from northwestern Spain. They're both from the province of Leon, and they came at different times in the 1970s. My father actually came originally in 1969, 1970. He was a cowboy and a sheep herder up in Washington State. So he was part of this like last generation of like Northern Spaniard young men who were coming, to the West and working, as ranch hands and that sort of thing. So he did that for like 3 years, came down to California, eventually went back to Spain to visit his family, meets my mom. They fall in love, that whole thing. And then they eventually, get married in California. So
Jaime,
my
I'm going to
background,
interrupt you.
yeah.
Look into the camera. You're looking up. Look
Oh,
into
I'm
the
sorry.
camera.
Am I looking in the
And
camera?
that's better. Now you're
Okay.
looking perfect. Stay
All right,
there.
you got
People
me.
want you
Okay.
to look at them, not at the.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Keep
Cool.
going.
Okay. So yes, like I said, born in this, little town in Northern California. And I grew up on a ranch. My dad ranched until I was about 3 or 4 years old, and we had sheep and walnuts and almonds and just a really nice little 13-acre setting, which was great for me as a little kid. And but what my parents brought with them was the tradition of making dry cured chorizo. So that's a tradition that I grew up with. So it was something that we made, every winter, by hand at home. And, we continued doing it as a family all through, I was all the way through high school. I went to college in the Bay Area at St. Mary's College. All through college, we still made it. And even after I had graduated. So this tradition has been, a big part of my life. And, I took it really super, I think, different path getting to where I am than probably most people. So my professional background is actually in education. I was a teacher. I taught high school history, social studies, and a little bit of theology. I was at a parochial school in the Bay Area. And like I said, my training was in social studies. I studied politics and history as an undergraduate, and then I traveled to London and got my master's degree in history. And I thought my path was going to be in maybe potentially becoming a PhD, teaching at that particular level, or writing or research, that sort of thing. So I was on a very kind of academic path. And then when I started dating my then wife, she tried our chorizo, and she said, "You know what? This is fantastic. This is amazing. I've never had anything like this." And she was really the one who planted that initial seed of saying, "You've got something really unique here. It's different. It's good because you've been making it now at home with your parents for 30 plus years." Um, and that other people like it as well because we've been giving it out to family and friends, for decades. So here I am. It's 2015. My wife and I are married. Our first son is about to be on the way in 2016. And I leave my teaching job. I had been, at this school for 8 years. At this point, I was like department chair and, pretty involved with everything that was going on. But I had kind of it's very I don't know particularly precisely how to describe it, but there was this thing that was telling me, you can do this, you have it in you to do it, you may not know how to do it now, but you know how to figure it out. You know how to problem solve. You know, you can research, you can backward plan, you're going to figure this out. This is not going to be easy, but I told myself, if you don't give this a go, if you don't try it, you're going to regret it. There's going to come a point in your life, when you're going to be much older and you're going to be looking at your sons, and you're going to tell them about the opportunity that got away or the chance you didn't take, right? So I said, you know what? My parents did something that was even harder than what I'm going to try to do. And I really took a lot of inspiration and a lot of my, I would say, the wisdom or the knowledge that kind of gave me the best foundation. I took it from my parents. I took it from, me growing up, the child of immigrants, being this first generation American in rural California. So I looked at my parents, and I knew their story. I knew their struggles. I knew how hard it was to come to a country where you didn't know anybody. You're 6,000 miles away from home. You don't speak the language. You have to learn everything on your own. Language, custom, culture, tradition, everything. And that to me seemed like something just so unbelievably difficult. But they did it, and they had far fewer resources than I had. They had far fewer experience than I had. And I said, well, you know what? If my parents could do it and they've done it and they showed me how to do it, I'm going to take that. And that's what I'm going to use to build Three Sisters Meats. And that's really where it came from. Because in order to get this started, when I left my teaching job, okay, in order to get this going, I had to work in a meat packing facility, like a legit meat packing distribution facility in Richmond, California. And here's how the setup went. And because in order for me, and I knew that in order for me to really get this to where I wanted to, I needed to make this in a USDA certified facility. And the reason for that is once you have that USDA certification, you can sell across the country. And that was the key. And I said, okay, well, in order to get that, I got to make this chorizo at a place, pardon me, that is USDA certified. Well, there was only one USDA certified facility in the entire Bay Area, and it was in Richmond, California. And I don't know if this was serendipitous timing, but by about October, November, they were planning on building out a proper sausage making, charcuterie facility. And I said, okay, well, this is the opportunity to right here. So, I went to them, I talked with the owner, talked with the team, said, this is my plan, this is my vision. I want to start my own chorizo company. I want to start my own chorizo brand. I need some place to start it. I'm willing to work out whatever agreement we got to do to get this going. Well, the agreement essentially was, okay, you're going to come work. And as we're building out the facility, you're going to work in the plant. You're going to learn everything about the meat packing industry, because honestly, I didn't know really anything about the meat packing industry or the meat industry at all in general. What I knew was how to take pork shoulder and mix it with spices and turn it into chorizo, right? And once I kind of did that, you realize what you don't know, and you kind of surrender yourself to, like, I'm just going to absorb as much as I can because I really don't know anything about this industry. All I had was a recipe. That's it. I don't have an MBA. I didn't go to business school. I didn't take any business classes. So, I was really doing this from beyond the ground up. Okay. I mean,
Well, I'm going to interrupt you and ask a
yeah,
question. What was
sure.
the advantage to them of
Mhm.
teaching you to be a competitor?
Well, here's the thing. I wasn't going to be a competitor because they weren't going to be making any type of Spanish sausage. And also, I was at such a early stage that I still needed to build out customers. I still needed to build out, kind of the entire infrastructure. So they were already leaps and bounds going to be ahead of me. So they didn't see me really as any type of competition. In fact, when I was working there and building out Three Sisters, there was another charcuterist kind of doing the same thing. We were all working together. We were like a team of 3, 4 guys. We eventually, what we did, so me, after me, essentially, and here's where here's where kind of the heart of the story is, because this is where this whole thing could have failed. I started in November of 2016. I didn't make my first Three Sisters sausage until June of 28. And that's how long it took for everything to get built out and everything to get set up and everything to get ready. So in that time period, okay, I'm waking up 4 o'clock in the morning, working in a 34-degree, refrigerated room, getting blasted by cold air every morning. We have one son at this point, and then we find out, oh, we're gonna have number two. So we got back-to-back kids going on. I mean, it was a really chaotic period, in my life. It was really unpredictable. It was really, kind of like, am
Hmm.
I really going to be able to make this thing go? Because here I am, just kind of in the thick of working, and
How did you
you know,
support yourself?
so fortunately I was getting paid. They were paying me. It wasn't a lot. And I'll be frank honest, I was getting paid under $20 an hour.
Hmm.
And we were living in the Bay Area. My wife was working, she was a psychologist for a parochial school in Marin County. Now, actually, she's a PhD candidate at University of North Carolina, so she's doing her own thing too, which is really great. So yeah, we had essentially that to support ourselves. I broke into my savings. I mean, I have basically tapped into every, financial resource that I had, but it was, I knew this was going to be a risk. And this is, but if you're going to take the risk, like if once you commit yourself, once you go all in, then you have to be all in.
Hmm.
And what all in meant for me was getting up every day, doing my work, just grinding through it, taking on the adversity until boom, 2018, make my first sausage. It was a fresh chorizo link and a fresh chorizo patty. We first started selling at the Spanish Table, which is in the Bay Area. They have 3 locations. They have been my best and oldest customer. I owe a lot to them and to
Well,
the ownership.
I'm gonna stop you,
Yeah,
Haman.
yeah.
What's the name of your company, and why did you call it that?
That's a great question. So there's kind of there's a dual nature to why we're called Three Sisters Artisanal Meat. So the first part, the first part of the Three Sisters meaning is my mother is one of 3 sisters, and this recipe that I use comes from her side of the family. They're from this little tiny village in Leon called Villa Garcia, um, and my family, that part of my family's been there for centuries, and they've been making chorizo for centuries. So I wanted a way to honor, my mom's side of the family, the contribution that they had given to me in order to creating this, this brand and this company. And then the other half of Three Sisters, interestingly enough, is for the first ranch my dad worked on when he came to California, and it's called the Three Sisters Ranch. It happens to be in the county that I grew up in. And as a little kid, I would go with him, to this ranch, from time to time, and see him, do his work as a cowboy. So that always had a lot of special meaning to me. The ranch itself sits in what's known as the Three Sisters Hills, and it's visible from the house I grew up in. So I wanted to honor my mom. I wanted to honor my dad because, without them, I wouldn't even know how to make chorizo. I wouldn't even be in this position. I wouldn't even, be inspired to do it, because at the end of the day, I wanted to not just honor my background, my family, my heritage, my culture, where I grew up in Northern California. The real kind of personal meaning behind this company, and why I call it is because it's a way to, I think, for me, to fulfill why my parents even came to this country. It's to fulfill that, that I think that immigrant, that dream. I am they put me on a platform, and I believe it's just my responsibility to take that to, the next logical level, and give my kids, a better life with more opportunities, and they can, do what it is that they want to do. And And I wanted this company to be an inspiration for them to be like, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter where you come from. If you have a dream and you just work your tail off, you can accomplish something. You can really do what it is that you want to do. And I wanted it just to be a positive, influence, on my kids and just let them know, hey, you know what? You have the ability to do great things. You just got to work, and you got to plan. And so that's why I call it what I.
Now, Hammy, your first product shipped in in 2020. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah. So first dry cured products came along in 2020. Um, I was we're still producing in Richmond, and for the next year, we did really well. I built out this very basic website with my father-in-law on Shopify, but we were starting to get sales. We were starting to get noticed, and by the end of 2021, I realized that I needed, more space and more room if I really wanted to make this, beyond just maybe like a little kind of boutique company. If I really wanted to compete, I really wanted to make this the kind of business, and I wanted to be the kind of entrepreneur I wanted to be, I needed to change where I was making the chorizo. So I went on like a 3-month quest, basically looking for new co-packing facilities in the United States that could do what it is that I had envisioned, that I wanted to do, which was, eventually add maybe some products to our brand down the line. And fortunately, I found a company in New York. They're originally from Spain. They're called Espunia, and they have a facility in Gloversville, New York, which is near Albany. And they're our co-manufacturer, and they've been phenomenal. And they are the reason why we have the kind of products that we do, and we're able to produce what we're able to produce. So
Well,
that was a real
stop
yeah
right there. Show your product. You brought
yeah.
some samples.
So yes, so this is our 6-ounce link.
Hmm.
This is what Espunia makes for us. And what's cool about it is that we also have all the certifications from the USDA. So we are 100% clean label, which means that all our meat and all our spices are verified USDA all natural. And this is why I love being with Espunia. This is something that I've always wanted to do, is to make a sliced chorizo. So this is our 3-ounce slice. And what I love about it, we do the back packaging, and you can really kind of
We
yeah.
have a little time left. What are the key ingredients to make it?
So the key ingredient, and what we try to make is more of a northern Spanish style of chorizo. If you go to Spain, depending on where you go in the north, chorizo, the recipes differ region by region. It's really interesting. Same way how the dialect of Spanish varies from region to region as well. So the key ingredient, number one, you got to start with the right kind of pork. And really what that comes down to is you want to use pork shoulder. So we use pork shoulder that is vegetarian diet fed. It is antibiotic free, hormone free, so super clean meat. That's a huge part of it. You want to make sure that you're actually using, uh, you're keeping the fat content, below 20%. That's incredibly important. And then we keep all our spices basic. We use salt, we use wine, we use pepper, we use paprika, or in Spain as it's known, pimenton. We use a little bit of cayenne. We use a little bit of garlic powder. But really, what it comes down to is the balance within the spices. It really comes down to how we balance the recipe. So, a true traditional Spanish chorizo always has pimenton, always has paprika. It could be a dulce, which is more of a sweet. It could be a agridulce, which is what we use, which is a bittersweet, which gives it a more smoky flavor and aroma. Or you can use a picante, or you can, use a nice combination of the two or three, however you'd like. But you
Okay,
gotta have pimenton.
let's stop. Where is your plant that you manufacture your stuff, your products in?
Yeah, we manufacture in that with Espunia in their plant.
So all of
Yep.
you, all of your production is out of Espunia.
Correct. All of our production is out of Estonia. It's on the East
So,
Coast.
but where are you located?
Yeah. So I'm located actually in Boise, Idaho. We moved here from the Bay Area in July of 2020. My wife is originally from Boise, and we came here. It was the timing just kind of worked out. We needed a little bit more space because we have, like I said, two little guys. But I'm able to run everything, from Idaho. And part of the reason why, and this was part of the plan. This is part of the structure that I wanted to build. I wanted to keep this company super lean. So I never wanted to buy machinery. I never wanted to buy a building. I wanted to keep this super streamlined and keep us fluid. So when we did make like this transition from Richmond to Albany, it was pretty seamless because all I needed to do was hand Espunia my recipe, my formula, and then everything else was taken care of. So um, because I've kept the overhead essentially bare minimum, it allows me to kind of run the operations the way I'm able to, which is again remotely, but everything runs incredibly smoothly.
Well, as price wise, how do you compare with your competitors? Are you more expensive? Are you what's your appeal? What's your appeal?
Yeah, so we are price wise. We are right on board with our competitors. We actually might be, a dollar less expensive depending, but our 6 ounce link, so this guy right here, this will retail for $12.99, which is right in line with the chorizos that you get from Spain. And then our 3 ounce, we retail this for $7.99, which again, pretty much online with Spanish chorizos. But and not only do we retail the product, we also wholesale. So part of what we're trying to do is to work. We're working to build out, our relationships with retailers,
What
grocery stores.
what's your website?
Oh, sure. So our website is the number three sistersmeats.com.
Hmm, okay. Well, I should have. Somebody just wrote me and said, what's your
Okay.
website?" So say it
Yeah.
again.
So it's going to be the number three sisters. So the word sisters meats.com.
Okay. Well, the question I would ask: Your wife's now in North Carolina. She encouraged you to start it. Um, how do you maintain the relationship? You still have the wedding ring.
Right. Well, fortunately, the way they've been able to structure her program, because she started the program when COVID, was I mean, everywhere. Everyone was on lockdown. So she actually did her first year. She did it entirely here in Boise, kind of how we're doing it now via Zoom. Last year, she had to travel back and forth a little bit. And then now she's actually home much more of the time. So thankfully she was able to build out her program in a way that actually allowed her to be home most of the time. And then, I had the flexibility where, I could, be with the kids, do that. And again, why I wanted to keep the overhead very, very low was I wanted to make sure I was also present, for my boys, for my wife, just to make sure that, I was helping because getting man, God bless all of you who have PhDs because I don't know how you do it. It is incredible, the type of work, like she's getting it in psychology, which is nothing easy. So, yeah, it all worked out. Thankfully, it all worked out the way it needed to.
Well, how many people are in your organization? How many people do you have?
Uh, just myself. We don't have any employees. Again, being able to have a co-manufacturer and essentially have someone take care of that production. That's been huge because when I started, I was essentially allotted a little bit of time every Friday in order to make the product. So make it, package it, put the label on it, put it in the cooler, right? And then travel around the Bay Area and hand deliver it to, my 14 different customers that I had. When we did the dry cured, obviously that changed the complexity of everything. That I didn't have to rely on, refrigeration, and that was a really big key. I learned a lot when it came to distribution, just the cost associated with any type of frozen or refrigerated product. It's incredible. So actually making the change and going to the dry cured really saved us a lot of money as a company and really allowed us now to do the sort of things that we're doing. Like we're working with catering companies, because we also do food service as well. Um, again, working with regional and national grocery stores, we're trying to get into places like Publix and Whole Foods. And I think, one of the reasons why uh, we're a great product, to be quite perfectly honest, and why would be a great fit for these national retail, regional retail grocery stores, is you're getting a legitimate Spanish product. This is from a recipe that's 200 years old. I am essentially a multi-generational caretaker, of this tradition, and you're getting it made here in the United States with the cleanest pork available, with the cleanest ingredients available. I mean, this is Michael Pollan, keeping it basic. We do a lot with very few ingredients, to give the American public what I believe is the truest, most authentic Northern Spanish chorizo, that is made in the United States. And I think that's really what sets us apart. I mean, our story, obviously very unique. We're an immigrant story, which really makes us an American story. But at the same time, my entire family's rooted in Spain, and we've been in the same province of Spain for centuries. We're from Leon, and that's why we have the three lions, as part of our crest. There's three provinces that make the ancient kingdom of Leon.
Yeah.
So yeah, so the number three plays a big part, but also the lions, also, where we're from. I mean, that's, I have a lot of, love and affection
Uh,
for, yeah. So
Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Your website, one last time.
you got it. So number three, sistersmeats.com.
On that note, we have to say thank you for a very illuminating time. Thank you.
My pleasure, Don. Thank you so much.